Hey yo, what's up you guys? So I'm coming to you another video. It is almost October, so which means it is Filipino American History Month, and One Down is coming with the season 2 of Breaking Down the Tabo. So here I am breaking down the Tabo like I did for season 1. I had a lot of fun doing that the first time around, so we're gonna have another good time around doing it again this time around. You know, a lot of good content, a lot of good subscribers came from that. So again, we're just gonna go breaking down all this topic of that, what they're talking about. So I got my Filipino lei on. It is September 29th, which is the Feast of the Archangel, St. Michael the Archangel, my patron saint and namesake. So we're gonna have some fun. So with that said, shall we begin? But first, of course, if you're new to my channel, what is up? My name is Mitch, Maverick Mitch. Hey, Mitch, all the Mitches, and pretty much I like talking about what I talk about. So, current events, reviews, pop culture within the scope of entertainment, culture, and purpose. So, TV, movie reviews, social political commentary. Be sure to check out all those videos as you're finishing this video. And of course, real quick disclaimers before we get into it. So this video is talking about know history, know yourself, right? And so this is kind of like an introduction to the season 2. So again, this could look like kind of like just a basic video about Filipino history in the course of American history and how we're kind of left out of it. So pretty much kind of like a liberal viewpoint, but again, there's probably a lot of valid points and everything. So, you know, there's still, when talking about all the breakdowns, right, there's still a lot of points, right? And in part 2, again, I said in my first season, you know, the person hosting this is Sapphire Sandala, my personal friend. So this isn't anything on her or the writers of One Down. Again, I just have a different perspective coming from a conservative, right? And so, again, we can have diversity of thought, and you know, we can respect our elders and hold hands when we can break bread and agree on certain things, right? I just have a different perspective, right? And so, again, I just want to put that out there because I don't want to seem like I'm just bashing them outright when they actually have good topics. So me doing the breakdown is content creation for myself as well as promoting them. And so everyone wins, and I think this is a great way that we can have a discussion using our various viewpoints and values. So with that said, let's get into it.
Why are Filipinos nothing more than a fun fact in American history books? The most widely known Filipino contributions to America are Lumpia, Bruno Mars, and the Jabberwockies. But the legacy of Filipinos in America has been largely limited to moments that don't disrupt the widely accepted version of history. You might never learn that Filipinos improved the lives of over 10,000 workers by successfully using national boycotts for the first time in 1965. Or that Filipinos were a huge part of the longest campus strike in American history, creating ethnic studies at San Francisco State University. The parts of Filipinos that challenge society should be equally celebrated, because Filipino American history is American history. I'm Sapphire Sandalo, and this...
What up, Sapphire? You know, I'm gonna pause right there and say, yeah, and obviously they had to do the widely, like, pun, I guess, and so, typical. But, you know, again, there's still value in that, right? And so, my only argument is that, like, in the vast course of, like, high school history, you're gonna only capture a moment of it within the course, right? And so, if you do want to if you want to dive into more of history, I think it kind of goes on the person, right? And going into college and actually, and maybe not even college, maybe just YouTube, right? At this point, right? And so learning about history, learning about your Filipino American history and all that stuff. And so I think it's also on the individual to learn about Filipino American history, because I do agree that Filipino American history is American history, right? And not just not on the surface level with all the contributions she just mentioned, but like being that Filipinos were pretty much U.S. citizens, if not U.S. nationals, during like 45 years. So a portion of that, we were like a U.S. territory. We were American. We were U.S. nationals. And so I think Filipinos, in comparison to the other Asian American countries and cultures, like we were actually Americans. So yeah. And so with that said, yeah, like I think that's a good point. And so we'll continue.
Where we talk real. While the U.S. has become home to the largest number of Filipinos outside of the Philippines, Americans never really wanted us to consider this home. Even though the Immigration Acts of 1917 and 1924 limited the number of Asian immigrants to the U.S., Filipinos were the only exception to this rule. And as a result, 100,000 Filipinos were recruited and shipped to America to be farm workers, most of which were able-bodied teenagers. And these teenagers became known as the Manongs. No, not your uncle or the older employee at your local seafood city, but the first major wave of Filipino immigrants in the 1920s to the 1930s.
Okay, like, so far so good, and I love the writing, and like, I love it because like, no, not your uncles, like, okay, we get it. They had to like, who's like the writer for this? Like, okay.
While agribusinesses accepted the much-needed labor with open arms, their white neighbors were not as excited by their arrival. In 1927, 30 men stormed the home of Filipino...
So, also, real pause real quick. Everything that she's mentioning, I already did, like, Filipino American experience at Cal State Northridge, so I already heard of this stuff. So, shout out to Professor Aquino, you know, shout out to FOSA and everything that I know about this. And then going back to my original point, like, saying, like, you kind of need to learn about this yourself. Like, in high school, I was learning Baybayin script. I was learning how to write in Filipino. I may not know how to speak Tagalog near fluently if I can just say a few words and know zero grammar, right? But like, at least I was learning a novelty that is Filipino writing. And so again, it's also on the individual. Like, they say like the government should do this, do that, but I say if you want to learn about your culture, how about you start with yourself, you know? Like, start with your mom, your dad, and then branch out from there. Like, it should also bear responsibility on the individual about knowing your culture and learning about your culture, rather than the history books, the American history books should teach you all of this stuff. Like, well, it's up to you too, so.
Ellis Peregrino, demanding that the Filipino farm workers staying there leave the county by midnight or risk being killed. In 1929, Exeter, California, the mobs burned down workers' living quarters, threw stones at Filipinos in the streets, and threatened Filipinos with ultimatums to leave a county or die. In Watsonville, California, a Filipino dance club opened, offering dances with white women. Not long after, a mob of 500 men attacked Filipino farm workers and shot through their boarding houses, killing a sleeping 22-year-old Fermin Tobera.
So also, okay, I hate pausing throughout the whole time, but my issue when it comes, like, sure, talk about the injustices, but the idea behind this, and I hate this is why, like, we talk about this is what the liberals like to do, right? And so they like talking about the injustices of the past and try to, as if those same injustices are happening in the present. Maybe on an individual level, there's still South Asian hate and people are still being attacked, sure. It's isolated, but if you can go like in the US military and there is like Filipinos serving alongside with everyone else and all ages, ranges, creed, sex, religions, all that stuff, I think we are in a good manner of speaking here, right? And so is everything perfect? I'm not saying that it is, but I'm just saying it's not what as it was in the past, and to the point where we don't have to keep on fighting for the atrocities of the past, you know, finding the corrections of the past. We can learn from it, definitely, but we don't have to keep on this emotional tie to the atrocities of the past. I think we can heal from it, and I think there's enough disconnection in a positive way that we don't have to. There's that same pain should not have translated over throughout the decades. Especially, again, we have Filipino American studies, we have Asian American studies, all these Filipino clubs throughout all of California. I think we've done a good job. Now again, not perfect, but I think we did a good job, right?
Tobera's death became international news. It made Americans' intolerance of Filipinos clear. No one was safe in the land of the free. In the 1950s, over 1,000 Manongs called a 3-block radius of San Francisco home, known as Manila Town. The Manongs lived in residential hotels such as the International or I Hotel. Unfortunately, but not surprisingly, San Francisco wanted to make a Wall Street of the West, and Manila Town was caught in the middle of it. By 1968, the eviction of Manila Town's community began, as developers wanted to build the high-rise skyscrapers of today's financial district. And within the next 2 years, the last building standing was the I Hotel, which hosted roughly 200 Filipino men. but it all came to an end on August 4th, 1977. After news leaked that the police were coming to remove the remaining residents, over 3,000 protesters built a human barricade in front of the hotel as their final attempt to stop the police. Those helping the effort included members of the Black Panther Party, church congregations, and labor rights groups. When the police began to axe their way through the building, the 55 tenants decided to stand down. Each elder came out, one by one, accompanied by an activist. The I Hotel residents nearly became homeless, and they couldn't even rely on their city representatives. Decades later, the US government still treats Filipino Americans as pawns rather than people. For example, 250,000 Filipino veterans fought in World War II, only to be denied all promised benefits by President Truman, a one-time lump sum payment by President Obama, and unity with their families in the Philippines by President Trump. And ultimately, Filipino American history is important because without the Manong struggle, all Americans wouldn't have the basic privileges at our jobs today, like bargaining for our hours, pay, and work conditions. Take, for example, Larry Itliong and Philip Vera Cruz. They led the Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee in a strike against the Delano grape growers, demanding pay equal to the federal minimum wage. Yet, Cesar Chavez became the face of the labor movement, celebrated with his national holiday, even though he wasn't even sure if he wanted to be a part of it at first. He thought it would be smarter to wait, but Filipino labor leaders, Itliong and Veracruz, knew that the corporations relied on Mexicans and Filipinos not seeing eye to eye. What the movement really needed was both communities standing in solidarity, something that also feels important to remember today. And in convincing Cesar Chavez to join the strike and form the United Farm Workers Movement, the 5-year strike succeeded, paving the way for every farm worker in California to negotiate better pay, hours, and safety policies. The fact that this triumph was accomplished by two communities coming together makes it a little sad that Larry Itliong Day was never recognized until 2019. This is exactly why we need to start talking about Filipino American history, because bringing up these moments changes things for us. It makes sure the people who fought for us get recognition, and the injustices committed against us are not forgotten. Something we definitely don't talk about enough when we talk about Filipino American history are Indigenous Filipinos in America today.
Okay, so we're gonna pause right here. So hold up. So, oh my goodness. Okay, up until that point, I'm kind of cool. Like, you know, like I heard all of this with Itliong and Veracruz and all that stuff. I listened to it, and so nothing new under the sun for me, under the CSUN, for me. And so, and now we're gonna go with, oh, I like this part. We're gonna talk about Indigenous Filipinos. We're gonna continue. They're gonna talk about like the people who I don't know if Igorot is a derogatory term, but mountain people, Cordillera people, or whatever, people from Kalinga, Ifugao, Apayao, Beniguet, Bontoc. Did I say all the Bibok tribes and provinces? And so. Yeah, I know myself. At least I know a little about myself, right? And so I like this, and I like it because I think it's stupid. We're gonna hear what she's got to say, but I'm gonna say it right now, and then we're gonna listen to it. Okay, so I think it's dumb because this whole like Igorot American type thing is just playing on to like Native Americans, First Nations of Canada, and it's as if, you know, these like Igorot Americans were untouched by the Spanish, and even if they were, I think you know, you don't have to go into this. You're still Filipino. Like, we're all still Filipino. I don't know why you gotta have to divide yourself even more, saying you are Igorot American. Like, you can be Ilocano, you can be Visayan, you can be whatever, but I don't see us dividing over those differences. Obviously, you can still be proud that you have your language and your province and your cultures, right, as big within the Filipino umbrella. But I feel like this whole Igorot thing is this idea of separating from Filipinos altogether. So that's why I think it's dumb. Like, if anything, like it's the more divisive nature of it, not less of the identification of it. So let's hear what she got to say though.
Zoo, or the 1904 St. Louis World Fair. This is treated as an example of pan-Filipino discrimination in this country and is part of the Filipino American experience. Yet it always fails to tell the other side of that story, which is that it's an Igorot experience and that it's Igorot Americans that are looking at these black and white photos and are reminded of their own family members, their own rituals, and reminded that we're never allowed to tell our stories with the dignity that they deserve. And so it's really important that when we share about this history, that we're sharing it from the perspective of descendants, because the people in those photos have descendants that are here today. One such descendant is Auntie Mia Abea, whose own grandparents sailed from Bontoc to St. Louis as part of the 1904 World Fair. She spoke at the 100-year anniversary and celebration in St. Louis, and she had this to say. Being the resilient people they are, these Igorots went back to their home in the mountains, perhaps sad and somewhat dejected, yet wiser and morally undefeated. They carefully kept their culture intact through the years, defiantly passing them on to the descendants you see today. Her words inspired me as an Igorot American about the importance of telling our own stories, protecting our culture, and making sure that it gets passed on. And so every Filipino American History Month, I'm always reminding people how important it is to center and put front and center Indigenous voices.
What?
Because our stories are ready to
Pause real quick. What is up with this word? It's like back in the ASU video I just did. They love that word centering. Like, I got to center myself, and this room is a center. You are not a center of this. Like, again, these words is very new agey, very woke. They go some hand in hand. A lot of these, like, if you like crystals, you like woke stuff. You know, you gotta woke, you gotta be awakened to the greater energies of the universe manifest. The secrets of the universe. And so they love that word center. I think that's like a hot word that they like to use. Like, I'm not being centered right now. Like, bitch! like that's so pretentious. Like, what the hell?
be heard and told with the dignity that they deserve.
So start telling your own personal history. Share it with your friends
Sure.
and write to your communities. Listen to your family's experiences. Or buy Younger Filipinos the children's book about Larry Itliong. Start a mentorship program connecting Filipino American college students to high schoolers.
Yeah.
Exchange with other family members your experience of being Filipino American. Because if there's anything that we learned about Filipino American history, it's that we didn't learn Filipino American history. And that changes with you. Thank you to
All right.
for sponsoring this.
Awesome. Okay, so ending notes and all that. And you know, I think that's an excellent point. We didn't learn about Filipino American history through American history and all that good stuff. You know, like, yeah, sure, okay. And teach people about Filipino American history. You know, 100%. And I'm gonna do this on the conservative side. You know, like, I think we can be proud of our Filipino culture and understand, like, there was Spanish colonization, and even if you disagree with that, it's still a part of who we are. I'm not saying that we're Spanish, but I mean that Spanish influences have been affected, as well as American culture, again being a U.S. national territory and everything, and then obviously gaining our independence in 1945, 1946, and So actually this is something that I want to do, starting here in Vegas and then hopefully translating it to the West Coast and California and everything, but like reviving, not just reviving, but really emphasizing our Filipino culture. There's a lot of Filipino centers in California, but as far as Vegas, there isn't one, at least not that I know of, and it's kind of sad because we are like the 5th largest Filipino American community in the US, and so it is strange that we don't have that. But anyway, I think there's an idea there in which I do want to bring back that Filipino culture, and especially in a conservative mind space, right? And so we should learn about our Filipino writing Baybayin script. We should learn about Tagalog. We should learn about our Filipino dances, folk dances. We should embrace the urban side of dance too, like in the hip hop scene. And obviously, there's still our Filipino martial arts, like whether it's Kali, Eskrima, Arnis, right? And so I think all of this is integral to our into our history. I think, and then something that I do want to emphasize is that we can be fully American and be fully Filipino. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. I think all of that is in like being a whole, right? And then one thing, again, I do want to dive into this into more like what do our values comprise of, right? And I did other videos, what do Filipino values look like? Are they more conservative? Is they liberal? And I think I'm going to dive into that in the future, especially since it's October. And then one thing that I do want to emphasize is one of our strongest values, which is utang na loob. Hopefully I'm saying that right. A debt of gratitude, right? And I think that that level of gratitude, whether it's through God and through your parents and through the friends that help you build up your life and to you, even your own self. And I think that is a strong value that we should have. And I think I want to center my movement maybe around that. And so again, I'm formulating this and it's coming into fruition. So we'll see how all that pans out. And so again, good discussion points in this video. Like I said, there are a lot of the stuff I already knew, but the point being is that we should learn about our Filipino history within the scope of American history, right? And so again, that doesn't have to be exclusive. I think it's a part, like Filipino history is a part of American history, especially since we, like I said many times, that Filipinos was U.S. nationals and territory. So yeah, cool, awesome video. Thanks One Down for putting that video, and looking forward to do other videos and breakdowns, and see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. You can follow me in my Instagram at HeyMitch, and see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace, peace, peace. Be with you. Alright, bonus real quick, since it is September, like I said, it's September 29th, Feast of the Archangel, St. Michael the Archangel. So I think I just want to just end this video with a bonus portion real quick with a prayer. I think there's a lot of things that's happening in America, and I think maybe we should just come together in God we trust, right? And so with that said, Nomine Patris et Filii Spiritus Sancti. Heavenly Father, eternal God, I come to you in prayer to ask that if we emulate our motto, in God we trust, that there is so much division, there is so much infighting within the cultural war, that people are like losing each other's family members over some small things. And I pray that we can come together in your name, and that we can all come together as Americans, in God we trust. And I pray that we can overcome all the tribulations that is facing our world and our nation, and overcome everything that is in our divisiveness and division. And again, may you protect our nation. God save America. God bless America. May we fully understand that and come together as all Christians under the sun. And I pray this in Jesus' name, amen. Saint Michael, the Archangel, protect us, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, Prince of heavenly hosts, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who were on the road seeking the rules of souls. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii Spiritus Sancti. Peace, peace, peace. Be with you. E come spero tuo.